Have you always felt like an outsider, like you don't quite think, feel, or see the world the way others do? What if that's not a weakness, but a sign of a deeper, more awakened mind? According to pioneering psychologist Carl Jung, those who feel different are often the ones undergoing a profound psychological transformation, a journey towards self-discovery that most people never attempt. Carl Jung, the father of analytical psychology, believed that true individuality isn't about fitting in, it's about uncovering your authentic self, no matter how unconventional. He introduced groundbreaking ideas like the collective unconscious, archetypes, and the process of individuation, where you integrate all parts of your psyche to become who you're meant to be. If you've ever felt out of place, it might be because you're further along this path than you realize. So here are 12 signs, rooted in Jung's work, that you're not like most people, and why that's a rare gift. 1. You have vivid, symbolic dreams. Carl Jung saw dreams as more than just random firings of the brain during sleep. He viewed them as a direct line to the unconscious mind, a hidden realm where our deepest fears, desires, and truths reside. If you frequently experience vivid, emotionally charged, or highly symbolic dreams, it could be a sign that your unconscious is more active and communicative than most. While many people brush off their dreams as meaningless, those who are psychologically different often find themselves lingering over them, searching for patterns, messages, or even warnings embedded within. Jung called dreams the royal road to the unconscious, and if yours feel like epic narratives, surreal landscapes, or recurring motifs, it suggests your mind is working in ways that go beyond surface-level thinking. For Jung, dreams weren't just personal, they could tap into what he called the collective unconscious, a deeper layer of the psyche shared by all humans, filled with universal symbols and archetypes. If your dreams frequently feature mythological themes, unfamiliar yet eerily resonant settings, or encounters with mysterious figures, like wise elders, shadowy pursuers, or guiding animals, you might be more attuned to this primordial layer of the mind than most. These dreams often carry a strange weight, as if they're not just about you but about something bigger, an insight into human nature itself. People who dismiss dreams as nonsense may never experience this, but for those who do, it can feel like receiving coded messages from a hidden part of the self. Another key sign that your dreams set you apart is if they feel transformative. Jung observed that dreams often compensate for what's lacking in our waking lives, revealing blind spots or unacknowledged truths. If your dreams frequently challenge you, force you to confront fears, or present you with puzzles that linger long after you wake up, it's a sign that your unconscious is actively engaging in self-regulation, a process Jung associated with psychological growth. Most people dream, but not everyone remembers, and even fewer feel deeply altered by their dreams. If yours leave you with lingering emotions, sudden realizations, or even creative inspiration, it's because your mind is processing reality on a much deeper level. Finally, Jung noticed that those on the path of individuation, the journey toward wholeness, often experience dreams that evolve alongside their personal development. Early dreams might be chaotic or frightening, reflecting unresolved inner conflicts. But over time, as one becomes more self-aware, dreams can take on a guiding, almost mystical quality. If you've noticed your dreams shifting in tone, becoming more symbolic, or even offering solutions to waking life problems, it's a strong indicator that your unconscious is not just along for the ride. It's an active participant in shaping who you are. While others sleep and forget, you might be one of those rare individuals who carries the echoes of your dreams into daylight, finding meaning where most see none. 2. You feel drawn to solitude. In a world that celebrates constant connection and social engagement, feeling most alive in solitude can seem like a contradiction, yet Carl Jung understood this impulse better than most. He recognized that while extroverts draw energy from the outer world of people and activity, Introverts turn inward, finding renewal in silence, reflection, and time alone. If you instinctively seek solitude not out of fear or shyness, but because it feels like returning to yourself, you embody what Jung saw as a fundamental psychological truth. Some souls are simply wired to thrive in the quiet. This isn't about isolation, it's about depth. Where others might find loneliness, you find a richness of thought, a clarity of emotion, and a space where your truest self can breathe. Jung himself was deeply introspective, spending long periods alone at his retreat in Balingen to listen to the whispers of his inner world. He believed that solitude was not just a preference but a necessity for certain individuals, a sacred container where the unconscious could speak without the noise of external expectations. If you've noticed that social interactions, no matter how enjoyable, eventually leave you drained, requiring hours or even days to recover, you're experiencing what Jung called the introvert's rhythm. While extroverts are energized by the crowd, introverts are energized by the depths they plumb when free from distraction. This doesn't mean you dislike people. It means your relationship with them exists on different terms. Your connections are often fewer but more intense, your conversations more meaningful but less frequent. The world may mistake your need for solitude as aloofness, but in reality, it's the very thing that allows you to engage with the world in a way that's authentic to you. What sets introverts apart, according to Jung, is their innate orientation toward the inner life. While extroverts project their energy outward, toward achievements, social status, and external validation, introverts are drawn to the mysteries within, the layers of self, the questions of meaning, the slow unraveling of their own psyche. This inward focus often makes them seem mysterious or hard to read, but that's only because their most important dialogues happen out of sight. If you've ever been told you're too serious, or in your head too much, it's likely because you inhabit an interior world that others can't see. Yet this same quality grants you a rare kind of wisdom. While the extrovert is swept up in the current of collective opinion, the introvert has the space to question, resist, and form their own convictions. Jung also warned of the dangers for introverts in a culture that prizes extroversion, how easily they can feel guilty for needing solitude, or worse, force themselves into roles that exhaust their spirit. Many introverts spend years pretending to be something they're not, only to collapse later under the weight of inauthenticity. If you've learned to honor your solitude instead of apologizing for it, you've taken a crucial step toward what Jung called individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are. The modern world may never fully understand your need for quiet, but that's precisely why it's so vital. In a society addicted to noise, the ability to be alone, to sit with your thoughts, to listen to your instincts, to create without an audience, is not just a trait. It's a quiet rebellion. 3. You see beyond surface-level conversations. For many, conversation is a social dance, a pleasant exchange of pleasantries, weather updates, and well-rehearsed anecdotes. But if you find yourself restless in these interactions, craving discussions that delve into the mysteries of existence, human nature, or the unseen forces shaping our lives, you embody a quality Carl Jung recognized as a mark of a deeper psyche. Jung observed that some individuals are simply not satisfied with the superficial. They hunger for dialogue that cracks open the shell of ordinary perception to reveal the raw, pulsing questions beneath. While others may shy away from topics like mortality, the meaning of suffering, or the nature of consciousness, you're drawn to them, not out of pretension, but because these are the conversations that make you feel truly alive. This preference stems from what Jung called a symbolic orientation to life, an innate tendency to look beyond the literal and into the realm of underlying patterns, archetypes, and hidden meanings. Where most people see a simple event, you perceive layers, the psychological motivations, the historical echoes, the mythic undertones. Small talk feels stifling not because you're antisocial, but because it leaves no room for this kind of depth. You might notice, for example, that casual discussions about work or pop culture inevitably lead you to ponder bigger questions. A movie isn't just entertainment, it's a reflection of societal fears or collective dreams. A friend's relationship struggle isn't just gossip, it's a window into how love, power, and vulnerability intersect in the human experience. This mindset isn't arbitrary, it's how your mind naturally operates, seeking the profound in the mundane. Jung would argue that this trait signals a strong connection to the collective unconscious, the reservoir of shared human experience that manifests in universal symbols, stories, and themes. When you steer conversations toward philosophy, dreams, or existential dilemmas, you're tapping into this deeper current. Most people navigate life on the surface because it's safer, easier, and more socially acceptable. But you're drawn to the undertow. This can make social interactions challenging. Not everyone is willing to explore these waters, and some may even find your perspective unsettling. But when you do encounter someone who speaks this language, the connection is instant and electric. These rare, soul-level exchanges become the conversations you remember for years, the ones that leave you feeling seen, energized, and less alone in your way of thinking. There's also a shadow side to this tendency, one Jung understood well. The mind that craves depth can become impatient or dismissive of those who don't share its appetite, leading to isolation or intellectual pride. You might have been called too intense or overly analytical by people who just wanted to keep things light. But Jung would remind you that this isn't a flaw, it's a calling. The world needs those who ask uncomfortable questions, who refuse to take reality at face value. Your ability to see beyond the surface isn't just a personal trait, it's a form of cultural immune response, challenging the collective to think more critically, feel more deeply, and engage more authentically. In a society that often equates happiness with thoughtlessness, your relentless curiosity is a quiet act of resistance. While others fill silence with chatter about sports scores or fashion trends, you're the one who pauses to ask, but why does this matter? What does this say about us? This inclination might set you apart, but it also equips you with a rare gift, the ability to navigate life with a compass calibrated to truth, not habit. Jung believed that those who think symbolically and seek substantive connection are the architects of cultural evolution, the ones who stretch humanity's understanding of itself. So the next time someone tells you to lighten up, remember, the world doesn't change by staying shallow. It transforms when a few insist on diving deep. For you experience synchronicities. There are moments in life when the universe seems to whisper directly to you, when a song comes on the radio at the exact moment you needed to hear its lyrics, when you think of someone you haven't spoken to in years only for them to call minutes later, or when a book falls off a shelf and opens to a passage that answers a question you've been carrying in your heart. Most people dismiss these as mere coincidences, but if these moments send chills down your spine and leave you with an unshakable sense that something deeper is at work, you're experiencing what Carl Jung called synchronicity, a meaningful coincidence that defies logical explanation but carries profound personal significance. Jung, who spent decades studying the intersection of psychology and the mystical, proposed that synchronicities are glimpses into a hidden order of the universe, one where the inner world of the psyche and the outer world of events aren't as separate as they seem. Unlike cause and effect relationships, which science can explain, synchronicities operate on the principle of meaning. They feel like cosmic winks, as if reality is subtly rearranging itself to show you that you're on the right path, or to nudge you toward a new one. For those who experience them regularly, life begins to feel less like a series of random accidents and more like a living, responsive tapestry. What makes synchronicities so startling is their specificity. They don't feel generic, they feel tailor-made for you, as if the universe is speaking in symbols only you can fully decipher. Jung noticed that these events often cluster during times of inner transformation, when you're wrestling with a major decision, grieving a loss, or on the verge of a spiritual awakening. It's as though the unconscious mind, which Jung believed is connected to a larger field of intelligence, projects its contents outward, turning chance encounters into mirrors of your inner state. A butterfly landing on your window might coincide with a moment of personal liberation, or a stranger's offhand comment might echo a lesson you've been resisting. For those attuned to this phenomenon, the boundary between inside and outside begins to soften, revealing a world far more mysterious and far more alive than conventional reality suggests. Skeptics often reduce synchronicities to confirmation bias, the tendency to notice only what fits our beliefs while ignoring what doesn't. But Jung argued that the emotional resonance of these events sets them apart. A true synchronicity doesn't just make you pause. It shakes you, leaving a lingering sense of awe or revelation. The key, he said, isn't to chase these moments superstitiously, but to remain open to their guidance when they arise. They're not proof of magical thinking, but evidence that the psyche and the material world are in a dynamic, creative relationship, one that rationality hasn't yet learned to quantify. Of course, the danger lies in overinterpretation, seeing signs where none exist or becoming so reliant on cosmic hints that you forfeit personal agency. Jung cautioned against using synchronicities as a crutch. Their purpose isn't to dictate your choices, but to illuminate patterns you might have missed. The people who feel most disoriented by these experiences are often those who haven't yet learned to trust their own intuition. Synchronicities amplify inner knowing. They don't replace it. If you've always sensed that there's more to reality than meets the eye, synchronicities are your confirmation. In a culture that prizes empirical proof above all else, your willingness to embrace these moments marks you as different, not gullible, but perceptive in a way that transcends the five senses. Jung believed that synchronicities are most frequent in lives that are aligned with their deeper purpose. So the next time the universe seems to reach out through a chance, encounter, or a perfectly timed event, don't shrug it off. Listen, you might be receiving a message, not from the stars, but from the depths of your own soul, reminding you that you're part of something far grander than the visible world allows. 5. You struggle with societal expectations. From the moment we're born, society hands us a script, a predetermined path of what we should want, how we should behave, and what constitutes a successful life. But if you've always felt an inner resistance to these expectations, a quiet but persistent voice that questions why things must be done a certain way, you're experiencing what Carl Jung called the tension between the collective and the individual. This isn't mere rebellion for rebellion's sake, it's the stirrings of individuation, the psychological process of becoming your authentic self by separating from the herd mentality that dominates most human behavior. Jung observed that modern society operates largely on what he termed the collective consciousness, a set of shared beliefs, values, and norms that people accept without examination. These unwritten rules govern everything from career choices to relationships to how we express or suppress emotion. The problem arises when these collective values clash with your innate nature. Perhaps you feel suffocated by the 9-to-5 grind when your soul longs for creative freedom. Maybe you question the obsession with material wealth when you find meaning in simplicity. Or possibly you reject conventional relationship models because they don't align with how you experience love. These aren't arbitrary preferences. They're signs that your psyche is pushing back against forces that would have you live someone else's life. What makes this struggle particularly painful is that society often pathologizes those who deviate from its norms. The free spirit is labeled irresponsible, the deep thinker is called overly sensitive, and the nonconformist is dismissed as difficult. Jung understood this tension intimately. He wrote extensively about how the individuation process requires courage, the willingness to endure criticism, loneliness, and even periods of disorientation as you shed conditioned beliefs to discover what's true for you. This isn't about rejecting all societal values, but discerning which ones resonate with your essence and which ones you've internalized out of fear or obligation. The irony is that this very struggle, though painful, contains the seeds of your unique gift to the world. Jung believed that by refusing to be molded by collective expectations, you create space for new possibilities to emerge, not just for yourself, but for culture at large. Every social advancement in history began with individuals who dared to think differently. Your discomfort with the status quo isn't a flaw. It's evidence that you're participating in this timeless human project of evolution. The more you honor your authentic nature, the more you give others permission to do the same. Yet there's a delicate balance here. Complete rejection of society leads to alienation, while blind conformity leads to soul death. The middle path, what Jung called individuation, involves engaging with the world without being consumed by it. It means developing the discernment to know when to comply, because it serves your higher purpose, and when to resist, because it violates your integrity. This isn't a one-time decision, but a daily practice of checking in with your inner compass amid the noise of external demands. If you've spent years feeling like a square peg in a round hole, take heart. Your struggle isn't proof that you're broken, but evidence that you're awake. While many people go through life on autopilot, never questioning the scripts they've inherited, your restlessness is the sign of a psyche that refuses to settle. In Jungian terms, you're not failing at fitting in. You're succeeding at remembering who you are. The friction you feel isn't an obstacle to your happiness. It's the necessary heat that forges your authentic self. Every time you choose inner truth over outer approval, you're not just walking your own path. You're helping to widen it for others who will come after you. This journey isn't easy, but it's sacred. Society may never fully understand or approve of your choices, but that's precisely the point. As Jung famously said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Your struggle with expectations isn't a curse, it's an initiation into a deeper, more authentic way of being human. 6. You're highly introspective. The average person moves through life largely unaware of the invisible currents shaping their thoughts and behaviors, reacting to external stimuli without examining the internal machinery behind those reactions. But if you find yourself perpetually turning inward, peeling back layer after layer of your own psyche with relentless curiosity, you're engaging in what Carl Jung considered one of the most vital yet challenging human endeavors, true introspection. This isn't mere navel-gazing or casual self-reflection. It's an ongoing excavation of the self that most people avoid because it requires confronting uncomfortable truths about who we really are beneath our carefully constructed personas. Jung recognized that this depth of self-examination naturally separates individuals from the crowd. While society encourages us to focus outward on appearances, achievements, and superficial markers of success, the introspective person understands that real transformation begins by shining a light inward. You likely spend considerable time analyzing your motivations, questioning why certain people or situations trigger strong emotional reactions, and tracing patterns in your behavior back to their roots. What others might dismiss as a passing mood, you recognize as a thread connected to deeper psychological fabric. This tendency goes beyond simple self-awareness. It's what Jung called shadow work, the courageous process of bringing the disowned, rejected, and unconscious aspects of yourself into conscious awareness. The shadow, in Jungian psychology, represents everything we've repressed or denied about ourselves, our hidden fears, unacceptable desires, and unexpressed potentials. Most people spend their lives running from these aspects, projecting them onto others or numbing themselves through distraction. But if you're naturally introspective, you've probably noticed how these repressed elements surface in dreams, sudden emotional outbursts, or irrational attractions/aversions. Your willingness to sit with these uncomfortable revelations rather than suppress them sets you apart. Where others might quickly justify their behavior or blame external circumstances, you're more inclined to ask, "What does this say about me?" This isn't self-flagellation, it's the mark of someone committed to psychological honesty. This constant self-analysis creates an interesting paradox. On one hand, it grants you remarkable insight into human nature generally. Your own struggles become windows into universal aspects of the psyche. On the other hand, it can sometimes feel isolating when you recognize depths in yourself that others seem oblivious to in themselves. You might find yourself frustrated when people operate on autopilot, never questioning their assumptions or examining their contradictions. But Jung would remind you that this introspective capacity is both a gift and a responsibility. The more you understand your own inner workings, the more you can break destructive cycles and cultivate authentic growth. The shadow work inherent in deep introspection isn't for the faint of heart. It requires facing aspects of yourself that may contradict your self-image, recognizing your capacity for pettiness, jealousy, or manipulation alongside your virtues. But this is where true integration occurs. Jung believed we don't become whole by focusing only on our light, but by making peace with our darkness. Your introspective nature means you're less likely to fall into the trap of spiritual bypassing, using positivity or personal development as a way to avoid confronting unresolved wounds. Instead, you understand that real wisdom comes from looking directly at what makes you uncomfortable. In a world that increasingly values quick fixes and superficial solutions, your commitment to self-examination is radical. It slows you down when others rush forward. It complicates what others simplify. But this very quality is what allows you to live with increasing authenticity. While many people construct identities based on who they think they should be, your introspective practice helps you discover who you actually are, beneath social conditioning, beyond others' expectations. The price is occasional loneliness or being misunderstood. The reward is a life of deepening self-knowledge where each layer uncovered reveals greater complexity and, ultimately, greater freedom. Jung's work suggests that this is the path not just to personal transformation, but to what he called individuation, becoming that unique, unrepeatable human being you were meant to be. 7. You're drawn to archetypes and mythology. There exists a hidden language of the human experience, one not spoken in words, but woven through the timeless stories, symbols, and myths that have echoed across cultures and centuries. If you find yourself inexplicably drawn to ancient mythology, fairy tales, or the recurring character types that appear in all great stories, you're resonating with what Carl Jung called archetypes, the fundamental, universal patterns of the human psyche that shape how we perceive and navigate the world. These aren't just interesting concepts, they're living forces within us, manifesting in our dreams, our creative expressions, and the unconscious roles we play out in daily life. Where others might see simple entertainment in these ancient narratives, you sense something deeper, a mirror held up to the soul's journey, a map of psychological transformation encoded in symbols that transcend time and culture. Jung discovered that certain mythic figures, the hero, the shadow, the wise old man or woman, the trickster, appear in remarkably similar forms across civilizations that had no contact with each other. This led him to propose the existence of a collective unconscious, a deep layer of the psyche shared by all humanity, where these archetypes reside as primal blueprints of human experience. When you feel a strange familiarity with mythological tales or recognize yourself in archetypal characters, it's because these patterns live within you too. Your fascination isn't academic. It's the recognition of something profoundly true about the human condition speaking directly to your unconscious. The hero's journey isn't just about slaying dragons, it's about your own struggles to overcome inner demons. The crone archetype isn't merely an old woman in a story, she represents the wisdom that comes through life's trials, a presence you might sense growing within as you accumulate your own hard-won knowledge. This archetypal lens gives you a unique way of understanding both yourself and others. Where someone else might see a midlife crisis, you recognize the call to adventure that often comes when the hero archetype is activated. A coworker's sudden destructive behavior might reveal the shadow taking control. Your dreams may present characters that, upon reflection, perfectly embody aspects of your own psyche needing attention. This perspective provides a rich symbolic framework for personal growth. Rather than pathologizing difficult phases of life, you can recognize them as archetypal initiations, each with its own purpose in your development. The mother archetype's emergence might signal a time of nurturing creativity, while the wanderer's appearance could indicate a necessary period of soul-searching. 8. You feel like an old soul. There's a particular kind of knowing that can't be learned from textbooks or life experience alone. A quiet, intuitive wisdom that seems to emerge from somewhere beyond your years. If people have consistently remarked that you possess an old soul, that you understand things you shouldn't reasonably know, or that you carry a sense of depth rarely found in others your age, you're likely tapping into what Carl Jung described as the collective unconscious, the vast reservoir of ancestral knowledge and human experience that exists beneath our personal psyches. This isn't about being intellectually gifted or well-read. It's about having direct access to wisdom that normally comes only after decades of lived experience. You don't just learn life's lessons, you somehow already know them, as if remembering rather than discovering for the first time. This old soul quality often manifests as a sense of familiarity with situations you've never personally encountered. You might walk into a foreign city and feel inexplicably at home, meet a stranger and immediately grasp the hidden contours of their personality, or encounter a complex emotional dilemma and know exactly how to navigate it, not because you're exceptionally clever, but because some part of you recognizes these experiences from a place beyond your individual lifetime. Jung would suggest this is evidence that you're more attuned than most to the archetypal undercurrents of human existence, the recurring patterns of love, loss, power, and transformation that have played out countless times before. Where others see only the surface of events, you perceive the timeless themes beneath, giving you an almost prophetic understanding of how things are likely to unfold. What makes old souls different isn't just their wisdom, but their relationship to time itself. Modern culture is obsessed with youth, novelty, and constant progress, but you likely feel equally drawn to ancient traditions, cyclical views of history, and the enduring truths found in old myths and texts. This creates an interesting tension. You're acutely aware of contemporary realities, yet part of you seems to operate from a perspective that transcends any particular era. People might accuse you of being born in the wrong century, but the truth is more nuanced. You carry within you the accumulated insights of many centuries, allowing you to see both what's genuinely new in our age and what's merely a repetition of age-old human dramas in modern dress. This connection to the collective unconscious often comes with a heightened sensitivity to the spiritual dimensions of life, not necessarily in a religious sense, but in your recognition of the invisible threads connecting all things. You might have moments of déjà vu so strong they shake you, or dreams that feel like visits to other times and places. Synchronicities, those meaningful coincidences Jung studied, probably occur with unusual frequency in your life, serving as reminders that you're part of a larger, intelligent pattern. While others chase material success or superficial pleasures, your old soul yearns for something more substantial, the kind of meaning that nourishes not just the personality, but the eternal aspect of human consciousness. Yet being an old soul in a young world isn't without its challenges. You may have struggled with feelings of isolation, especially in childhood when your depth set you apart from peers. Romantic relationships can be complicated when you crave a connection most people aren't ready to explore until much later in life. The modern world's obsession with speed and distraction might leave you exhausted, longing for the depth and stillness that feel like your true home. Jung would remind you that this tension between your innate wisdom and the immature aspects of culture is precisely what makes your perspective valuable. Old souls serve as bridges between ancestral knowing and contemporary life, helping to ground society when it risks losing touch with enduring truths. What ultimately defines the old soul isn't just precocious wisdom, but a particular orientation toward life's purpose. You sense that we're here not just to consume and achieve, but to awaken and remember. Your depth of understanding comes with responsibility, to live authentically, to honor the wisdom you carry, and to share it when appropriate without diluting its power. In Jungian terms, you're likely further along the path of individuation than most, which explains both your maturity and the occasional loneliness that accompanies it. The world needs old souls now more than ever, those who can see beyond the immediate chaos to the timeless patterns beneath, and who can help guide others home to their own deeper knowing. Your age has nothing to do with the calendar. It's measured in wisdom earned across lifetimes, now flowering in this one.